Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational ED Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. I highly recommend that you check them out. So listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. You put one of their units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to be like a magnet for kids, for coaches. How about sponsors? Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and see all the ways that they can help you promote your program. Vital Signs Wall of Fame. We also want to say thank you to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years. When I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. Our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just love the Huddle platform. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. We want to say thanks to Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school and it was tremendously successful. Our coaches loved it, our parents loved it, our finance officer loved it. Go to SnapRaise. You can check out all their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's SnapRaise. We also want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every single day. Scheduling, rosters, results. Their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast. Find out all the ways that they can help you improve your program. That's homecampus.com. We also want to say thank you to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing genius. Maybe it's just a simple social media post to celebrate a victory, or it could be an entire newsletter to showcase all the great things your athletic department is doing. The team at Gipper is going to have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com for all the details. We want to say thanks to our friends at Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You've heard me say before, one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to their website and schedule that live web demo today. We want to say thank you to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. I didn't get my master's through the Ohio program, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're completing your master's degree, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We want to thank our good friends at Hometown. Hometown is changing the game for schools, for organizations with their suite of solutions that includes things like, well, how about digital ticketing? They're still the number one provider, but they also do athletic website construction, fee-free fundraising, and a whole lot more. Whether you're an athletic director, a principal, even a coach, Hometown is going to show you how to save time, raise more money, and bring your community together. Go to hometown.com to get started. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic directors already get feedback, but a lot of times it's from that small group of complainers, and you don't get to hear from the folks who support your program. That's where Athletic Surveys comes in. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you hear from all of your stakeholders, student athletes, coaches, and especially parents. And having that data, that positive feedback is incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with a frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Let them create that survey that'll help you take your program from good to great. athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to South Carolina today, and our guest is Nena Stone. Nena is a certified athletic administrator. She's an assistant principal and assistant AD at Carolina High School in Greenville. And I told her I was going to say this. I think this episode, as we near 700, I think this had the longest gap between the initial invite. I think I invited Nena on our very first season and the actual interview. So, Nena Stone, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad that we finally have connected.
Well, I was going to say we've known each other for 5 years, but we've never met. And we've known each other virtually, I guess. But
Yeah.
excited to have you on. Excited to hear about this new position that you got. So let's go ahead and jump right in. As
Okay.
you know, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us your quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. For this segment, maybe take us up through your college years, and then we'll take a break. But what's the Nena Stone origin story?
Okay. Well, I am from Greenville, and I grew up with lots of family around me and friends. I've we had neighborhood, get-togethers, and we back then we had big wheels. And so where I lived had one of the largest hills in the neighborhood. And so we would all get together and in the community and go down. We would have races and we would crash and we all laughed and had a really good time. And I think that's kind of where my childhood really started, right? With things like when middle school, I started getting into athletics more. I guess I started playing basketball when I was in third grade, and that just kind of continued on. We would play, just pickup games in the neighborhood, in the backyard. And then that just sparked my interest to try out for my high school team. And then one of my goals when I was younger was to play college ball. And so I worked really hard and persevered and was able to play a little bit of college ball. So it's kind of who I am a little bit.
Although I just love to hear the stories, and it's cool that now you're working in the city, the town where you grew up. I guess I'm a big moments guy. Can you look back to those days, in the backyard or the driveway basketball games, or even middle school, high school, where at the time it really didn't seem like much, but now looking back with wisdom, and you've been a coach, now you're an AD, you can look back to that one moment and say, "Hey, that was significant for me." Anything come to mind?
I think when we played church ball right before we got into middle school and high school, and I had this one coach, Mr. Maxwell, and he was determined to coach a bunch of young teenage females, which is probably really hard. But he was determined. He, loved each one of us. But the biggest thing that he did was he taught us discipline and accountability. And I feel like that's one thing that I still do today, bring into what I do today, is just you know, not only holding other people accountable for making things, better, but holding myself accountable and disciplining myself and realizing, like I did back then, was that, it's my discipline and me being held accountable for myself helps everybody else. And so that's just one thing that I feel that just that moment in time that I had with him was significant. And every time I saw him, we went to the same church, like I was saying, up until probably about 3 months before he passed away. He would always talk to me and say, ask me about the athletics at all the schools that I've been in. And so he was very significant, and those church ball moments really led me to the way that I am today.
No, well, I love every part of that story. The discipline aspect, the church leagues, remember all that growing up, and the fact that you still had a relationship with him long after, the coach player relationship had
Oh,
ended.
yeah.
Um, Moving on, high school, you said you played some college ball. Were you thinking, was it always your goal to be a coach or to become an AD, or how did that all happen?
So, I first started, so I got my degree in special education. And, but before I got it in special ed, I actually was wanting to be like a physical therapist. Thought that I, always wanted to be somehow involved in athletics. Um, but I didn't at first. When I thought it was just going to be over and I wasn't going to coach and I was just going to go and do physical therapy. But then, like most college students, I changed my major. And it was, I want to say, I guess it was my sophomore year, decided to go the special education route and wanted to get into coaching at that point. So I had a mentor. My first high school basketball coach was a special ed teacher. And I just remember that relationship with us, and he was telling me all about the great things that's involved in teaching. And so that's kind of where it started, as my sophomore year in college, that decided what I wanted to do after that.
Okay. Can you think back to that undergraduate curriculum and coursework? Is there an activity, an internship, or something, a project that still resonates with you today as a teacher, as a coach, as an AD, as a principal?
I'm trying to think. Well, we would do projects with some of our students with disabilities, and we would have to raise funds or raise awareness. One of the projects that we did, we created a playground for an elementary school for students with disabilities, like modified swings, modified, like in the old school where you have the round things that you get on and you spin so fast, you fly off, and, probably would not be found around here nowadays. But we made little modified things that they could just sit in and somebody could push them and they would go around. And because a lot of these students could not physically play on the playground. So, that's one of the things we did with one of my undergrad classes. Um, and I felt like that was really significant because it just allowed some more inclusiveness. And this was a long time ago. So, we didn't have a lot of these things for our students with disabilities.
Oh yeah, I remember as an undergrad we had I think it was maybe a 3 week addition to a class where we were working with special needs kids, and I remember it was incredibly fun, but it was also incredibly exhausting because you're as a teacher as the working with those students. I mean, you're on every single second, and boy, my hat's off to you and those that work with that group. Very very cool stuff. Let's go and take our first break. Our guest today is Nena Stone. She's a certified athletic administrator. She's the assistant principal and assistant AD at Carolina High School. That's in Greenville, South Carolina. So let's take that break, but we're coming back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thank you to Vital Signs Wall of Fame for their support of the podcast. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record board for all the teams, for all the different events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. You put one of their units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to be like a magnet for kids, for coaches. How about sponsors? Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and don't forget to mention the podcast. We also want to say thank you to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. Our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there's a whole lot more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest, again, is Nena Stone. Nena, you kind of took our listeners up through your undergraduate experience. Here's graduation. You're in the job market. What was the start of your journey that's now brought you to Carolina High School?
Okay, well, finished at the College of Charleston and then moved back home to Greenville in the upper state. Got a job immediately. I was working with students with disabilities, and I'll never forget it because my first classroom was actually a trailer. And so I had a group of students in that trailer with one other adult, and we tried to make it work. So, that was definitely a good start to my journey on how to persevere through through obstacles. But so I loved it. It really was a great start for me because I think it was the foundation of who I am today. So stayed there for 2 years and then realized that probably just my degree in special education was not enough. So I scooted on down to the Midlands and went to the University of South Carolina in Columbia and was able to get my education specialist degree in school counseling. So, because you got to treat the kid as a whole, right? And so stayed in Columbia and went to work at a couple of schools in there, Dutch Fort Middle School. And that's where my coaching career, I coached in Greenville for 2 years at a local high school, but really my journey started at Dutch Fort Middle School. I ran into Ann Long and Doretha Garland, and they kind of propelled me to where I kind of kept going to. Saw multiple state championship games. We came up short twice, but just that experience, to take these girls to that level in the state of South Carolina was huge for me. Lots of lessons learned. Then went on down to the Low Country and stayed at Somerville High School for a while, and then journeyed around the Low Country for I don't remember how many years it was, but I was at Somerville and Pinewood Prep, Cane Bay High School. So then some, still coaching, right? Still leading in special education. Kind of was getting the itch of administration, just helping more around the athletic department. During all of that, I had two beautiful children, Holly and Cooper. So they joined the party. Holly used to sit on the bench with me. She's always been my assistant coach, taught and coached with, they both grew up in the gym. Somebody asked, we were sitting underneath one of the scoreboards and I was very pregnant at the time, and the buzzer went off and they were like, your baby didn't jump. And I'm like, no, he's been listening to this for quite some time. So he's used to that buzzer. So then, we decided to move back home to Greenville. I've been here ever since. This is my third school in Greenville County. Got a little bug and became a middle school athletic director. And And I knew that's what I wanted to do from that point on. And so while it's taken me a little journey, a little bit longer journey than I wanted to, finally got here today. And, it's been an amazing ride. So I'm excited about it.
Again, I just love to hear the stories, all the different twists and turns. You mentioned you had a pretty successful coaching career, but you said you were starting to get the itch to go into administration. What was that itch? Can you go back and describe that for our listeners?
Well, I knew, okay, so when I was at Cane Bay, the I've been watching a lot of the athletic directors, right? And John McKissick is one of the most well-known football coaches, athletic directors. He was at Somerville High School. So I learned a lot from him. And then when I moved over to Cane Bay, started following Jeff Cruz, who was at, the AD there. Well, he left. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try, interview, right, for this job. All right. Well, didn't get it. And so I thought, God, what's going on here? How can I improve? So I asked one of the people that interviewed me, I'm like, what was it? And he said, you only really knew about girls basketball. And he said, if you're going to be an athletic director, you got to know all the sports. You got to be able to reach all the kids. You can't just reach, girls basketball. So from that point on, from that interview on, I started learning about other sports and became intrigued with all the different types of athletes that it takes to play all the different games that we have. And so, that was a significant moment is when I got denied a job.
Those, I mean,
So
sometimes those are, very, motivating factors in
for
how
sure.
we end up, channeling our energies. Um, I'm going to let you share all things Carolina High School in a minute. And full disclosure, this is your first year there in your position, but you mentioned you were in the middle school AD. Um, when you become a head coach, or which you have been, when you become an AD, there's those things that you didn't know that you didn't know that. When you became that middle school AD, what were at least one thing that you found out you didn't know about the job?
I think it was more so on how to continue to motivate some of the adults into, hang in there. Middle school's tough anyway. But to keep the adults motivated and, you know, I didn't know all the paperwork. I mean, I'm in special education, so I know paperwork, but I didn't realize all the paperwork that came with being an athletic director. The scheduling that we have to do, with all the other middle school teams and, the lining of the field. Yeah, that was my first time that I actually lined the baseball field. It was awful. I thought I was going straight, felt good about it. And I turned around when I got out past first base and I turned around and it was as crooked could be. So I didn't know how to do any of that kind of stuff. So it was definitely eye-opening.
That's the classic meme. They show the foul line going off into infinity, and the caption is, "You had one job." Okay.
I know, yeah.
No, I think all of us that remember those days had those moments of, "Oh my gosh, look at that line." Um, let's go and take another quick break. When we come back, I'm going to have Nina share her current stop in her career at Carolina High School. So let's take that break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Snap Mobile, particularly Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, I'm telling you, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school with our teams and it had tremendous success. You're really going to love it. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, You just found it, and it's Snap Raise. We also want to say thank you to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day for scheduling, for rosters, results. Their athletic clearance and eligibility platform alone is a game changer. And even if your state uses a different platform, you can still be a home campus school. Go to homecampus.com to find out all the details. And don't forget to mention the podcast. We also want to say thank you to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Maybe it's a simple social media post to celebrate a victory or an entire newsletter to showcase all the great things that your school is doing. The team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com to get started. And we'd like to thank Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You heard me say before, one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. And welcome back, everybody, to our interview with Nena Stone, Certified Athletic Administrator and the Assistant Principal and Assistant AD at Carolina High School in Greenville, South Carolina. Nena, you've been on the job for a while. We also want to give some congratulations out. You did just recently complete your CAA, so congratulations on that. But share with our listeners a little bit about your school, the enrollment, the programs that you offer, and why you think it's the greatest place in the world.
All right. Well, thank you again for the recognition of the CAA. So Carolina High School is one of the smallest schools in the Greenville County area. We have roughly about 900, fluctuates about 900 students. Our poverty rate is about 86%. We have 88% is minority, 58% of that being Hispanic families. We are under, this is our fourth year, I think, under new leadership. And we, have, I think let's see, 14 varsity sports. And, includes the big ones, right? Football, volleyball, girls tennis, the winter sports, basketball and wrestling, and then baseball, softball, and soccer and track. So, we have a couple of JV teams. So we're not a huge athletic department, but we've got some kids that just persevere and go out to practice every day. And one thing about our school is we don't have a strong feeder system. And so a lot of our students, when they get to ninth grade, that's when they start learning the sport. And so we've got some coaches that, really break down the sport, and, we're really competing against ourselves, just getting better every day, trying to improve the skills as not as adults, but as, student athletes, as people, right? And, so that's kind of where that's what Carolina High School is all about.
Oh, I love it. I love the whole small town story. As an assistant principal, you've got, tons of duties that I'm going to guess maybe sometimes tug and I don't want to say interfere, but make being an assistant AD challenging. What's on your plate as an assistant AD at Carolina? What are some of the duties that you're doing?
So mainly what I do is the assistant AD is, absolutely support our athletic director. 3 years ago, we started something called a Trojan Athletic Patrons. It's not a booster club because we're not quite at that stage yet, but it's just a group of patrons in our community that come together 6 times a year just to kind of hang out in the media center and find ways to support, our band and our athletic department. Um, we help with the Hall of Fame that we started last year. So that's one of my big responsibilities with that. Helping with taking parking, getting parking done at big events, right? Like at the football games. That's where we really charge for parking. Um, you know, Going and being one of the, supervisors at all the games. Also what we started, one of my jobs is to do what we call a timeout, which is professional development for our coaches. That's new for us this year. And so that's one of my big responsibilities for that. So,
I love that. Obviously, I'm real big on professional development. What are some of the things that are going into that timeout program? That sounds very cool.
yeah, it really is. But I wanted to, just look at why we called it a timeout, if I may. The story behind that. So my admin team, we went to a conference and Grant Hill was the keynote. And so he was talking about, that famous shot by Christian Leitner that really disappointed a lot of people. Anyway, so he kind of broke it down and he was like, when do you think that game was won? Right? At what point do you think that game was won? And people were like, oh, when you made that pass or when you made that shot to pull ahead. And he goes, yeah, okay, you could say that. He goes, but really where that game was won was in the timeout. And he said, we had to come together. Coach K brought us together. We prepared in the timeout. We knew our roles, what we were going to do in that timeout. It gave them a chance for everybody to get on the same page. So that's where I came up with timeout as our professional development opportunities. So that's what we do, right? Is we come together as coaches. Some of the coaches lead part of it. We did the book, You Win in the Locker Room First. And so we're using that as the basis of what we bring to these timeouts. And so we meet, I think we're going to meet 6 times this year. So Carolina High School is known for being a promising practice school for professional learning communities. And so this is kind of like our first year to bring the athletic department into that professional learning community. So we are, one of the biggest things that came out of that was we had to look at our reality. Where were we, right, as Carolina High School athletics? And so we broke it down. We talked about where our kids grade wise, how many started a season versus how many ended the season, how many had the whole department won versus, how many, or out of the total things that we won, how many did we win? We looked at how many of our kids were in school suspension, out of school suspension, how many graduated. So that was really one of our first things, because we can't develop as adults until we know what our reality is. So we're going to really kind of focus on that kind of stuff and how we as adults can continue to learn, from the book, what it means to get this athletic department continuing to grow professionally.
I love the whole story. I love the name. I love the concept. I love those activities that you're going to be doing. Perfect timing also. We're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, find out more about your timeout program, or just connect with you as another AD, what's the best way that our listeners can connect with Nena Stone?
So they can shoot me an email at Nena, Nena Stone, Stone 10 at Gmail.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to email them.
And Nena's also active, fairly active on LinkedIn as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go and take another break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but we are going to come back with more with our guest, Nena Stone of Carolina High School in Greenville, South Carolina. We'll be right back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We will Want to say thank you to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's through the Ohio program, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you complete your master's degree, you also complete 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to thank our friends at Hometown. Hometown is truly changing the game for schools and organizations with their solutions that include, well, big surprise, digital ticketing. They're still the number one digital ticketing provider. But how about fee free fundraising, athletic website construction, and a whole lot more? Whether you're an athletic director or principal, even a head coach, Hometown is going to show you how to save time, raise more money, and bring your entire community together. Go to hometown.com for more information. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD podcast and our interview with Nena Stone. Nena, we mentioned a couple times you recently earned your CAA from the NIAAA. That doesn't happen by accident. How did you find out about the leadership training program, the coursework, and kind of walk our listeners through your experience of taking the courses and earning your CAA?
Okay, well, our district athletic director encourages professional development using all of the courses that you guys offer. And so I started, and our district encourages all new ADs to get their RAA. And so he actually taught some of those courses for us. So as soon as we started doing that, I was like, oh, yeah, this is really going to help me out a lot. So I was able to go to, I think it was Tennessee. I've been to 3 national conferences, Tennessee, Arizona, and Texas. And so, I just caught the bug. And so I did take a little bit of a break, was being a full-time mama and taking courses, and then started working on my doctorate. So I've had to kind of back off just a little bit on some of my the courses that I was taking, but finally was able to circle back and because I knew I wanted to get that CAA and eventually the CMAA. But I'm just a learner. I love it. I don't think that I know everything. Just as soon as I do, I don't know everything. And so I find out real quick. So I've really enjoyed the journey. I think it's practical. The instructors are amazing. They can bring a lot of, personal stories, things that worked, things that didn't work. They're always willing to share after the courses, that we take. So I just think it's a brilliant way to help, athletic administrators, but then it also trickles down to our coaches. And that's really kind of where the timeouts were developed, were through the courses that I've taken.
As you were taking the courses, and I think probably many of our listeners know, those required courses, there's a lot of focus on, organization, the administrative tasks, also the legal aspects that athletic directors need to be aware of. As you were taking those courses, do you remember one that really stuck out in particular, like in a good way? Boy, this is really cool. I need to take it back to the school. Or, oh my goodness, we're not doing this. I definitely need to take it back to my school.
Well, please forgive me if I do not get the course number correct. I think it was 706. I think because I just took it. It's terrible that I can't remember the course number. It was the professional development or developing your coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that in Texas. And so that really sparked a lot of me because it's really about continued improvement. I'm not going to be here forever, and so I want to be able to help our coaches and future athletic directors into being able just to carry on, what we've started here. And so I know that that particular course, and again, forgive me if I got the number wrong, but that particular course just gave me the confidence, and it really reiterated, or I was, sorry, that course really helped me develop more of my purpose as an assistant athletic director, to lead other adults, so that when I do leave the world of athletics, it will just continue on. So
Oh no, no worries about the numbers. There's very few of us that can, chapter and verse say, oh yeah, that's 502 or that's 621.
yeah.
Uh, and you and I were talking during the break. You just, got your CAA, and I kind of said, well, we're going to ask you what you're going to get your CMAA on. Um, your timeout program would make a great CMAA project. And now talking to our listeners, if you're thinking about, oh gosh, I don't know what to do my CMA on, I guarantee you're already doing something at your school. Maybe it's with coaches, maybe it's with student athletes, maybe it's parents, facilities. You're already doing something. Don't try to invent this great project. Look at what you're doing right now. What are you passionate about? What has had a big impact on your school? That is what makes the best CMAA project. Every state has a certification coordinator. Reach out to your state certification coordinator and say, hey, I'm thinking about this for my CMAA. I was on the National Certification Committee for many years. I still help ADs with their CMA projects. So you've got a lot of resources out there. And just to reiterate to you, Nina, I think that timeout program is truly, that would be a great CMA project when you're ready to get started. Okay. Um, this has been really cool. As I mentioned at the top of the show, it's been a long time coming, but we finally got to sit down and spend some time with our good friend, Nena Stone. But we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. So we're going to take our final break, hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsor this segment. And when we come back, I'm going to challenge Nena to send out a brand new AD on their very first job, but I'm only going to let her put 3 things in the toolbox. So let's take that break, but we're coming back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. At my school, we use surveys for everything, for student athletes, for coaches. How about parents? Yeah, we did parents too. And here's the cool thing. The information that would come back on these surveys is almost always over the top positive. I'm talking 98% approval. We still got to hear from those squeaky wheel parents, but the surveys allowed us to hear their concerns, usually deal with them before they turned into something big. But having that data, that 98% data, incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with that frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with a friend of the show, Nena Stone, certified athletic administrator, assistant principal, and assistant AD at Carolina High School in Greenville, South Carolina. Tremendous background in coaching and athletics. But right now, I'm going to challenge her to send out a brand new athletic director, but I'm only going to let her put 3 items in their toolbox. So, Nena, what 3 tools are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
Okay. All right. So the first one is provide your coaches with professional development, provide them space and time to collaborate with intention. So that's my first one. All right. Number 2, make sure that you can each year, you should get your coaches together and evaluate your current reality. I think schools that have won multiple state championships can still improve, but just to, kind of break down every year, just make sure that you get together and evaluate your current reality so that you can have that continued growth for not only yourself, but your athletes as well. All right, number 3 is to live your life each day with purpose, value, and conviction. And I
Uh,
think that you'll be good to go.
no, I love them all. Let's start with that last one. Live your life each day, purpose and conviction. Take us on a little bit deeper dive with that.
So you got to wake up every day. First of all, thankful that you were able to wake up and put 2 feet on the floor. That's the first thing. But really, if you don't have a purpose, then, I'm not even sure why you go to work and why you work with coaches and teachers and athletes. And if you got to find your why and your purpose, because those days that are horrible, and we do have horrible days, right? Those moments, you've got to go back to your why, and that'll get you through that bad moment. And you add value, right? All of us add value to what we do. Sometimes people can look at with having, with the value of something, you can bring new material or new perspective to moments with athletics. And then just, walk up in there and, have some conviction on what you want to do. I know Jim Brooks talks a lot about sitting at the table, and being a female assistant athletic director, that kind of comes into play with it. And, she often says, stand up and, be courageous and find your voice. So I think, that's one of those things that, I've learned along the way.
Oh, no, again, thanks for going into that in a little more detail. I love it. And your professional development tool, certainly your timeout program at Carolina High School, there's a great example of that.
Mhm.
Nena, it's been such a cool experience spending this time with you after all these years. And, we're going to have to get you back on the podcast maybe in 2026 for an update. In the meantime, if one of our listeners wants to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more, or just connect with you, what's the best way they can do that?
All right. Just send me an email at Nena Stone 10 at gmail.com. That's NENA STONE 10 at gmail. I'd love to pick other people's brains too.
Okay. Hey, I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you going to be in Tampa for this year's national conference?
So nope, our actual the athletic director is heading down there. So I get a year off, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, thanks again for sharing with our listeners. All the best for a continued great year. And we'll look forward to the next time we have you on the podcast.
Okay, sure do appreciate it. Thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, you bet. You're very kind. We also want to say thanks to our listeners. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of athletics. So please join us next time on the Educational AD Podcast. Have a great day.